Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing, topping on Newscast. The Justice Department is cracking down on child support in the territory. Parents who owe more than $2,500 in child support and are delinquent for more than 30 days are in the DOJ's crosshairs and could face serious sanctions because of delinquent payments. News 2's April Knight has that story.
The VI Department of Justice is no longer playing with parents who fail to pay child support. Attorney General Claude Walker made the announcement in a press conference Monday.
An important initiative entitled Operation Support Our Children. This is shameful conduct that has to stop. Quite frankly, we can say it's downright un-American for someone to have a child and have the means to take care of that child, but refuses to do so.
According to Walker, there are more than 1,700 Virgin Islands parents who currently owe a combined amount of more than $29 million in overdue child support payments. 99% of these parents are men. And for all of these cases, according to Walker, the paternity have been firmly established. Last week, child support officials testified before the Senate that they signed up for the Federal Parent Locator Program so taxpayers don't end up picking up the slack and the VI doesn't lose any more incentive federal funding.
It ends today.
Walker says they're ready to impose sanctions on delinquent parents.
The Attorney General's office is authorized to suspend any license for any person, any parent who owes $2,500 or more. We can suspend professional licenses, driver's licenses, business licenses, have his passport withdrawn. That person will not be able to travel overseas if the passport is withdrawn.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Delinquent parents have until October 31st, 2015 to argue their case. You are urged to get in touch with the Department of Justice in both districts for more information. Executive Director Valdemar Collins, Virgin Islands Public Finance Authority, said that the PFA, on behalf of the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands, successfully received funding with respect to a $40,000 real property tax revenue anticipation note, Series 2015, on Monday, September 28th. Pursuant to Act number 7750, the funds will be used for working capital purposes and to cover the projected shortfalls in revenue collection during fiscal year 2015. Governor Mapp departed the territory this weekend. As a board member, he is attending the Southern States Energy Board annual meeting in West Virginia. The Southern States Energy Board is a nonprofit interstate compact organization whose mission is to enhance economic development and the quality of life in the South through innovations in energy and environmental policies, programs, and technologies. Each jurisdiction is represented by the governor and a legislator from the House and Senate. Governor Mapp will be making a presentation titled Critical Energy Strategies for U.S. Territories. He returns on Friday, October 2nd. Meanwhile, as U.S.-Cuba relations continue to thaw, members of the 31st legislature are trying to make sure the VI is ready for the probability that the island nation would draw away tourists from the rest of the Caribbean, including the Virgin Islands. One senator is calling for a concerted response. News 2's April Knight has more.
Lawmakers are taking a deeper look into the territory's response to the normalizing ties between Cuba and the United States. Senator Jeanette Millen-Young, who chairs the Economic Development Committee, says she wants to see a more united approach by VI government agencies.
It's very important that with a subject such as this, that everybody's not working in their own little silos, but that we come together and we figure out a path forward.
In August, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry raised the U.S. flag in Cuba after decades of strained relations. While some rejoice at the diplomatic progress, others worry about what it would mean to the territory's main money-making industry, tourism. Even though concerns about the normalization of U.S.-Cuba relations is not new, and in spite of assurances that it will take a while for Cuba to take a bite out of the lucrative U.S. tourism market, Senator Millen-Young says she's still not satisfied with the answers she's been getting so far. Tourism Commissioner Beverly Nicholson Doty has stated before the Senate that Cuba will have to rebuild its infrastructure to accommodate an influx of American visitors, buying the Virgin Islands some time.
I guess I used to believe it until I started seeing what they're doing, and I've seen videos of how beautiful their hotels are going to look within the next 4 years.
And if the Cuba situation does prove devastating to the Virgin Islands economy, there are other limited industries that the Virgin Islands can bank on.
Agriculture, let me just make this clear, will not replace tourism, but we still have to build that industry. We also have our broadband technology, which in essence will connect the world. That's something that Cuba won't have.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Count on 2 to keep you updated. The Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs is informing the general public to be wary of the latest scam targeting Virgin Islanders. Residents are receiving phone calls from persons from the so-called United States Government Reclaim Department who claim to be hired by the federal government. No such agency, DLCA says, of the United States government exists. The scammers go on to inform the call recipients that the Reclaim Department is in possession of monies due to them from illegal bank charges taken from customers over the years. In order to receive the money, the scammers instruct the call recipient to send via MoneyGram a refundable claim fee of $290. Do not share the personal information, DLCA says. Give them a call for more details. Well, in other news, the Economic Crimes Unit of the Virgin Islands Police Department executed search warrants at 6 MoneyGram outlets throughout the territory, 3 on St. Thomas, 1 on St. John, and 2 on St. Croix. That search stems from an investigation into the MoneyGram business operated by Alvary Smith and Anna Garcia for allegedly embezzling over $1.4 million in revenues from the corporation. Anyone with information concerning this, you are urged to call the VIPD at 778-2211 on St. Croix, 774-3942 on St. Thomas, or 911. The U.S. Coast Guard is investigating the death of a 60-year-old tourist, John Joseph Russo of Tennessee, who drowned on September 15th during an excursion on Blackbeard's Revenge. He was traveling on the Norwegian getaway cruise ship with his girlfriend. He died on September 15th after diving from the boat anchored in Frenchman's Bay. According to the police department, according to an autopsy report, it showed Russo died of a broken neck. Crew and fellow guests searched for nearly 45 minutes before Russo's body resurfaced. We'll turn our attention overseas. It's the last day of Pope Francis's historic multi-city tour in what has been an already very eventful week. The Pope maintained his hectic schedule through the end. Chris Welch is in Philadelphia with a look at the Pontiff's last day in the U.S.
With a final wave, Pope Francis departed the U.S., but not before imparting one final blessing.
I pray that you may all be good and generous stewards of the human and material resource entrusted to you. God bless America.
Earlier in the day, the Holy Father met with 5 victims of sexual abuse. Speaking to a chapel full of bishops after the meeting, he vowed careful oversight to protect children from sexual abuse within the church.
The people who had the responsibility to take care of these tender ones violated that trust.
Continuing his practice of reaching out to those living on the margins of society, the pontiff became the first pope to ever visit an American prison.
This time in your life can only have one purpose: to give you a hand in getting back on the right road, to give you a hand to help you rejoin society.
The pontiff concluded his whirlwind tour with an open-air mass at Benjamin Franklin Parkway. Speaking before nearly 1 million worshipers, Pope Francis focused on the small things.
Like a blessing before we go to bed, or the hug after we return from a hard day's work. Love is shown by little things.
In Philadelphia, I'm Chris Welch reporting.
Meanwhile, keeping our eye on the economy, here's our New York Stock Exchange. Taking a look at the stock market watch. Everything down, as we can see, the Dow 312, NASDAQ 142, S&P 500 49. Coming up on News 2, the aim, a walk that would encourage everyone to take the necessary steps to make wishes come true. Highlights from this weekend's Walk for Wishes. Well, some news to cool things off. The Virgin Islands Port Authority is pleased to report that the air conditioning system at the Cyril E. King Airport Terminal on St. Thomas was repaired over the weekend. They say the system is now fully functional and cool in all areas of the terminal. VIPA's Executive Director Carlton Dow said air conditioning problems were experienced at the terminal on Friday and was working at 50% capacity. He said the authorities contracted repair company Train Puerto Rico has found that a sensor on the main chiller needed to be replaced. CAPA members hope to discuss fighting in schools as well as weapons and drugs getting into the schools and on campus. In addition to these visible signs posted at the front entrances at CAHS and Eudora Ken, they are hoping to get signs posted that states vandalism of this property is punishable by a fine. CAPA members are planning to meet to address this concern and provide some solution at their next meeting. We'll keep you updated. As a step towards reclaiming the community, today, Senator Terrence Nelson held the second meeting pertaining to rallying for peace on St. Croix. Many members came out. Now, the next event to mark on the calendar is September 30th. The community town hall meeting will be held at UVI St. Croix campus from 5:30 to 8 in the Great Hall Room. Then on October 10th, a peace memorial will take place from 2 to 8 p.m. for victims, families, and community as a whole. The tentative location will be Island Center. Then November 7th, a peace rally day concert from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. The tentative location is the Agriculture Fairgrounds. The St. Croix community is encouraged to come to the very next meeting to present and discuss possible remedies to combat the increase of crime on the island and discuss resolutions. Again, that very next meeting is Wednesday, September 30th in the Great Hall Room at UVI from 5:30 p.m. to 8. Senator Kenneth Gittens, who is the vice chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security, Justice, and Public Safety, joined millions of people across the territory and the nation on Friday in the observance of the National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims. Coming from a law enforcement background, he said he sees the importance of the Day of Remembrance as well as the impact of murder on families and communities.
With 27 murders reported territory-wide for 2015, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing this. We have our future at stake as we continue to lose our youth with the pull of a trigger, the swipe of a knife, or by other violent encounters. As we stop and remember the victims and the survivors they left behind today, let us also reflect on how each of us can make a difference and end this cycle of violence in our community.
The Night Out event continues tonight at the Emancipation Garden. Events kicked off earlier this evening, and it began, of course, from Friday till this evening. The annual event started off with a spiritual night at the Emancipation Garden. Then on Saturday, the parade and march was held from 5 p.m. That began at Emil Griffith Ballpark to Emancipation Garden. Now tonight, it's a moment of community healing. It's across from the Fort Christian parking lot. A lot of civic, nonprofit, school groups, clubs, government agencies, all are in attendance for the program that kicked off a little earlier. Last year, the U.S. Virgin Islands chapter of Make-A-Wish raised enough funds with their annual walk to give 4 sick children and the families who love and care for them a brief reprieve from hardships of a life-threatening illness. This weekend, with that, they did even better, thanks to about 600 participants who came out to Yacht Haven Grand for the 4th annual Walk for Wishes. An estimated $25,000 was raised this year. Organizers say that's enough to grant 5 wishes, and that's only the start of wish granting process.
We do something that's called Play the Wish Game with the kid, which we ask them, you know, if you have an opportunity to be anything you want to be, go anywhere you want to go, have anything you want to have, or meet anyone you want to meet, what would that be? And we do our best to try to identify what their most heartfelt wish is, and then our people go to work with trying to sprinkle their pixie dust to make it all happen for them.
All of that money raised stays here in the Virgin Islands. You can go on usvi.wish.org and you can pay right there online and help support the cause.
Well, stargazers in the States and here in the VI were treated to a rare celestial event Sunday night. And we saw some folks northside and even on the waterfront lined up looking out to view the so-called supermoon combined with a lunar eclipse which left the moon shrouded in an eerie red glow. The simultaneous event will not happen again until 2033 and has only happened 5 times since the beginning of the 20th century, with the last time taking place in 1982. The Earth's shadow began to dim the supermoon and turn it red around 8 p.m. The total eclipse started around 10:11 p.m. The supermoon is a full moon that appears larger than usual as it makes a close encounter with Earth in its orbit. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.